Welcome back, listeners, to Sandman Stories Presents, a folklore podcast where I read you to sleep or until the next story. I'm your host, Dustin. If you want more Sandman, I have extra stories that are too spicy for the main feed, available on my Patreon. And you can join at the free tier and get everything. Thank you to Dan of Bunny Trails for being the paid member. Today we are back in the book of Japanese folktales written down by Theodora Ozaki. In the first story, a man is almost gobbled by a goblin. And in the second, a monkey is at the end of his days, and he's able to escape the butcher's block with the help of a wise old boar. Okay, let's begin. The Goblin of Adachigahara. Long, long ago, there was a large plain called Adachigahara in the province of Mutsu in Japan. This place was said to be haunted by a cannibal goblin who took the form of an old woman. From time to time, many travelers disappeared and were never heard of more. And the old women around the charcoal braziers in the evenings, and the girls washing the household rice in the wells in the mornings, whispered dreadful stories of how the missing folk had been lured into the goblin's cottage and devoured, for the goblin lived only on human flesh. No one dared to venture near the haunted spot after sunset, and all those who could avoided it in the daytime, and the travelers were warned of the dreaded place. One day as the sun was setting, a priest came to the plain. He was a belated traveler, and his robe showed that he was a Buddhist pilgrim, walking from shrine to shrine to pray for some blessing, or to crave for some forgiveness of sins. He had apparently lost his way, and as it was late, he met no one who could show him the road or warn him of the haunted spot. He had walked the whole day, and was now tired and hungry, and the evenings were chilly, for it was late autumn, and he began to be very anxious to find some house where he could obtain a night's lodging. He found himself lost in the midst of a large plain, and looked about in vain for some sign of human habitation. At last, after wandering for some hours, he saw a clump of trees in the distance, and through the trees he could catch the glimmer of a single ray of light. He exclaimed with joy, "Oh, surely that is a cottage where I can get a night's lodging." Keeping the light before his eyes, he dragged his weary, aching feet as quickly as he could towards the spot, and soon came to a miserable-looking little cottage. As he drew near, he saw that it was in a tumble-down condition. The bamboo fence was broken, and weeds and grass pushed their way through the gaps. The paper screens which served as windows and doors in Japan were full of holes, and the posts of the house were bent with age, and seemed scarcely able to support the old thatched roof. The hut was open, and by the light of an old lantern, an old woman sat industriously spinning. The pilgrim called to her across the bamboo fence and said, "Oba-san." Old woman. "Good evening, I am a traveler. Please excuse me, but I have lost my way, and I do not know what to do, for I have nowhere to rest tonight. I beg you to be good enough to let me spend the night under your roof." The old woman, as soon as she heard herself being spoken to, stopped spinning, rose from her seat, and approached the intruder. "I am very sorry for you. You must be indeed distressed to have lost your way on such a lonely spot so late at night. Unfortunately, I cannot put you up, for I have no bed to offer you, and no accommodation whatsoever for a guest in this poor place." "Oh, that does not matter at all," said the priest. "All I want is a shelter under some roof for the night, and you will be good enough to just let me lie on the kitchen floor. I shall be grateful. I am too tired to walk further tonight, so I hope you will not refuse me. Otherwise, I shall have to sleep on the cold plain." And in this way he pressed the old woman to let him stay. She seemed very reluctant, but at last she said, "Very well, I will let you stay here. I can offer you a very poor welcome only, but come in now, and I will make a fire, for the night is cold." The pilgrim was only too glad to do as he was told. He took off his sandals and entered the hut. The old woman then brought some sticks of wood and lit the fire, and bade her guest to draw near and warm himself. "You must be hungry after your long tramp," said the old woman. "I will go and cook some supper for you." She then went to the kitchen to cook some rice. After the priest had finished his supper, the old woman sat down by the fireplace, and they talked together for a long time. The pilgrim had thought himself that he had been very lucky to come across a kind, hospitable old woman. At last, the wood gave out, and as the fire died slowly, he began to shiver with cold, just as he had done when he had arrived. "I see you are cold," said the old woman. "I will go out and gather some wood, for we have used it all. You must stay and take care of the house while I am gone." "No, no," said the pilgrim. "Let me go instead, for you are old, and I cannot think of letting you go out to get wood for me this cold night." The old woman shook her head and said, "You must stay quietly here, for you are my guest." Then she left him and went out. In a minute she came back and said, "You must sit where you are and not move, and whatever happens, do not go near or look into the inner room. Now mind what I tell you." "If you tell me not to go near the back room, of course I won't," said the priest, rather bewildered. The woman went out again, and the priest was left alone. The fire had died out, and the only light from the hut was that of the dim lantern. For the first time that night, he began to feel like he was in a weird place, and the old woman's words, "Whatever you do, don't peep into that back room," aroused his curiosity and his fear. What hidden thing could be in that room that she did not wish him to see? For some time, the remembrance of this promise to the old woman kept him still. But at last he could no longer resist his curiosity to peep into the forbidden place. He got up and began to move slowly towards the back room. Then the thought that the old woman would be very angry with him if he disobeyed her made him come back to his place by the fireside. As the minutes went slowly by and the old woman did not return, he began to feel more and more frightened, and to wonder what dreadful secret in that room was behind him. He must find out. "She will not know that I have looked unless I tell her. I will just have a peep before she comes back," he said to himself. With these words he got up on his feet, for he had been sitting all this time in the Japanese fashion with his feet under him, and stealthily crept towards the forbidden spot. With trembling hands he pushed back the sliding door and looked in. What he saw froze the blood in his veins. The room was full of dead men's bones, and the walls were splashed and the floor was covered with human blood. In one corner, skull upon skull rose to the ceiling. In another was a heap of arm bones. In another, a heap of leg bones. The sickening smell made him faint. He fell backwards with horror, and for some time lay in a heap with fright on the floor, a pitiful sight. He trembled all over, and his teeth chattered, and he could hardly crawl away from the dreadful spot. "How horrible!" he cried out. "What awful den have I come into in my travels? May Buddha help me, or I am lost. Is it possible that that old woman is really the cannibal goblin? When she comes back, she will show herself in her true character and eat me up all in one mouthful." With these words, his strength came back to him, and, snatching up his hat and staff, he rushed out of the house as fast as his legs could carry him. Out into the night he ran. His one thought was to get as far as he could from the goblin's hut. He had not gone far when he heard steps behind him and a voice crying, "Stop! Stop!" He ran on, redoubling his speed, pretending not to hear. As he ran, he heard the steps behind him come nearer and nearer, and at last he recognized the old woman's voice, which grew louder and louder as she came nearer.
"Stop, stop, you wicked man! Why did you look into my forbidden room?"
The priest quite forgot how tired he was, and his feet flew over the ground faster than ever. Fear gave him strength, for he knew that if the goblin caught him, he would soon be one of her victims. With all his heart he repeated the prayer to Buddha, "Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu." And after him rushed the dreadful old hag, her hair flying in the wind, and her face changing with rage into the demon that she was. In her hand she carried a large blood-stained knife, and she still shrieked after him,
"Stop! Stop!"
At last, when the priest felt he could run no more, the dawn broke, and with the darkness of night the goblin vanished and he was safe. The priest now knew that he had met the goblin of Adachigahara, the story of whom he had often heard but never believed to be true. He felt that he owed his wonderful escape to the protection of Buddha, to whom he prayed for help. So he took out his rosary and bowed his head as the sun rose, and he said his prayers and made his thanksgiving earnestly. He then set forward for another part of the country, only too glad to leave the haunted plain behind him. The end. And story number 2, The Sagacious Monkey and the Boar. Long, long ago, there lived in the province of Shinshin in Japan a traveling monkey man who earned his living by taking a monkey around and showing off the animal's tricks. One evening, the man came home in a very bad temper and told his wife to send for the butcher the next morning. The wife was very bewildered and asked her husband, "Why do you want me to send for the butcher?" "It's no use taking that monkey around any longer. He's too old and forgets his tricks. I beat him with my stick all I know how, but he won't dance properly. I must now sell him to the butcher and make what money out of him I can. There's nothing else to be done." The woman felt very sorry for the poor little animal and pleaded for her husband to spare the monkey. But her pleading was all in vain. The man was determined to sell him to the butcher. Now the monkey was in the next room and overheard every word of the conversation. He soon understood that he was to be killed, and he said to himself, "Barbarous indeed is my master. Here I have served him faithfully for years, and instead of allowing me to end my days comfortably and in peace, he is going to let me be cut up by the butcher, and my poor body is to be roasted and stewed and eaten? Woe is me, what am I to do? Ah, a bright thought has struck me. There is, I know, a wild boar living in the forest nearby. I have often heard tell of his wisdom. Perhaps if I go to him and tell him my trouble I am in, he will give me his counsel. I'll go and try." There was no time to lose. The monkey slipped out of the house and ran as quickly as he could to the forest to find the boar. The boar was at home, and the monkey began to tell his tale of woe at once. "Good Mr. Boar, I have heard of your excellent wisdom. I am in great trouble. You alone can help me. I have grown old in the service of my master, and because I cannot dance properly, now he intends to sell me to the butcher. What do you advise me to do? I know how clever you are." The boar was pleased at the flattery, and determined to help the monkey. He thought for a while and said, "Hasn't your master a baby?" "Oh yes," said the monkey, "he has one infant son." "Doesn't it lie by the door in the morning when your mistress begins the work of the day?" "Well, I will come around early, and when I see my opportunity, I will seize the child and run off with it." "What then?" said the monkey. "Why, the mother will be in such a tremendous scare, and before your master and mistress know what to do, you must run after me and rescue the child, and take it home safely to its parents. And you will see that when the butcher comes, they won't have it in their heart to sell you." The monkey thanked the boar many times and then went home. He did not sleep much that night, as you may imagine, for thinking of the morrow. His life depended on whether the boar's plan succeeded or not. He was the first up, waiting anxiously for what was to happen. It seemed to him a very long time before his master's wife began to move about and open the shutters to let in the light of the day. Then all happened as the boar had planned. The mother placed her child near the porch as usual while she tidied up the house and got their breakfast ready. The child was crooning happily in the morning sunlight, dabbing on the mats at the play of light and shadow. Suddenly there was a noise on the porch and a loud cry from the child. The mother ran out from the kitchen to the spot, only just in time to see the boar disappearing through the gate with her child in its clutch. She flung out her hands with a loud cry of despair and rushed into the inner room where her husband was still sleeping soundly. He sat up slowly and rubbed his eyes, and crossly demanded what his wife was making all this noise about. By the time that the man was aware of what had happened, and they both got outside of the gate, the boar had gotten well away, but they saw the monkey running after the thief as hard as his legs would carry him. Both the man and his wife were moved to admiration at the plucky conduct of their sagacious monkey, and their gratitude knew no bounds when the faithful monkey brought back the child safely to their arms. "There," said the wife, "this is the animal you wanted to kill? If the monkey hadn't been here, we shall have lost our child forever." "You are right, wife, for once," said the man as he carried the child into the house. "You may send the butcher back when he comes, and now give us all a good breakfast, and the monkey too." When the butcher arrived, he was sent away with an order for some boar's meat for the evening dinner, and the monkey was petted and lived on the rest of his days in peace, nor did his master ever strike him again. The end. Wow, I really like that first one. It reminds me of a song that I was first introduced to by my coworker Tia. A man in the woods is encountering another human being who turns out to be a tiger's victim, hoping to lure more victims to the tiger. And there's a chorus in the middle that goes, Namu Amitabha, Namu Amitabha. And it's asking Buddha's help for being safe. Go check it out, it's on Yeun, and I'll link it in the show notes. And the second story really had a happy ending for me. I didn't want to see the monkey get chopped up for a retirement present. And I still have quite a few stories left in this book, and I love reading them, so there will be many more. And the podcast shoutout is to the scene Snobs. Miserable Mick is a veteran of the film industry. He brings that knowledge and passion along with producer Paul, and talks all things film and pop culture. With a goofy laid-back style, they discuss film, TV, games, and anything else that comes across their plate. They have a live show every Tuesday for their Patreon members, and then those are posted to their YouTube. And if you like their show as much as I do, go and give them a like, a rating, and a review. And the listener shoutout is to Udon, Thani, Thailand. It is the largest city in Isan. It was a smaller town until the 1970s when an Air Force base opened. It was first mentioned in 1826 when the king of Vientiane, in Laos, attacked the city and tried to overthrow the Thai rulers. The other thing that it's known for was being used as a black site for the CIA. The site was closed down in 2002, thankfully. And I'm in the planning stages of visiting Thailand again, so I will propose to my wife that we visit the city. And so to my one listener in Udon Thani, I say, Kapchai and Muaganda. Thank you, and I'll go home now.